so that I can send it out to people who aren't able to be here. This is going to be a very fluid time together, because if you have a question as we're going along, I want you just to speak up. I'm not going to be able to monitor the chat for hands raised or anything like that, because I'm trying to do the slides as well. So if you just want to, come on out with whatever questions or comments you have, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, we're recording this, and I will try to have that translated, maybe put up on YouTube so that it'll be easily accessible to everyone. So basically, as I said, this presentation is to help members of the PRS community understand not only their community, but where it's placed in the society and how to most effectively operate. I think first I'm going to shut down my video so I'm not distracting anyone. So PRS stands for Processing Systems. ASabe transitioned to the 9 communities back in 2014, which was just before I came. So sometimes reference is made to the past designation, which was FPE, Food Processing Equipment. So some of you who have been here for some time may remember that. Each community has standard committees for overarching coordination. PRS 01 is considered the steering and executive committee for PRS. The executives are the past chair, the vice chair, the secretary-elect, the program chair, and the program chair-elect, all for the PRS community. So that's what you see here with the steering committee. But also, the steering committee consists of all of the chairs and vice chairs for all of the PRS committees. Then we come to PRS 02/02, which is the nominating committee, and it is made up of the past chairs going back 4 years. So when you get to the 5th year, then you roll off, and they're responsible for nominations of the incoming officers. Then we have the Community Standards Oversight Committee, which again does just that. It is in charge of any of standards that are developed, and the Publications Committee, as well as the General Program Committee. The Program Committee deals with the programming for your technical sessions at the annual meeting. The PRS community is also currently home to 3 ISO US tags. It's a technical advisory group. A technical advisory group is a group of experts that we draw together in our country, the US, to help determine the one US position when we vote for international standards. In ISO, every technical committee, such as PRS 293, for example, is made up of countries from around the world, and each country gets 1 vote. It doesn't matter how large the country is, how many experts they have, they get 1 vote. So the US TAG, or Technical Advisory Group, is the group of experts that ASabe has brought together to determine what that 1 vote is when they review the international standards that are under development. And like I said, we have 3 currently in PRS. The first being 293, which is feed machinery. The second is PRS 326, which deals with food processing machinery. The official name is machinery intended for use with foodstuffs, but that's quite a mouthful, so we just call it food machinery. And they haven't really gotten started. This committee was initiated in 2019, but because of the pandemic and shutdowns, they haven't really started with their work because they want to meet in person first. And Germany is the host country of this committee, and they haven't been able to host a meeting yet. So we're hoping that happens by 2024 sometime. And then the third one is PRS 3417, or the US tag for TC 34SC17, which is Management Systems for Food Safety. And they deal more with codecs and with accreditations for food safety and management. These are the general ASabe committees under PRS. So we have PRS 280, bioconversion and bioprocesses, PRS 701, physiochemical properties of biological products, PRS 702, crop and feed processing and storage, PRS 703, food processing, and PRS 707, food and organic waste management and utilization. So I'm assuming that those of you who are on this call today are a member of one or more of these committees. Currently, PRS 280, 703, and 707 do not yet have any standards, but they're still considered technical committees. So let's look at the society in general and its structure to get you started with the big picture so you know where PRS sits within everything. So ASabe was founded in 1907 at the University of Wisconsin-Madison with 18 charter members from the US and Canada. And over the years, the society grew along with agricultural engineering departments at universities across North America, thus growing the membership and expanding into government and university. As the work of the society has evolved, so has the organizational structure. So let's start with the ASabe Foundation and its Board of Trustees and the Society Board of Trustees, two separate entities. The foundation supports awards, special initiatives, and projects for our members. The Society Board of Trustees oversees the society in general with its executive committees and 4 councils of standards, publication, meetings, membership, and the newly forming Strategic Initiatives Council, which is still in progress of development. 3 of the councils are divided over the 9 technical communities, with various technical, publication, and meetings committees to support the work of our membership, which is your program committee, your standards oversight committee, the publications committee that we just saw. Membership is divided into geographical sections and specific membership communities, and they focus on students and member achievements. The new Circular Bioeconomy Systems Institute looks to be under the Strategic Initiatives Council at the moment. This is what I've been told. So some of you may know more than I do on this, but again, this is still in progress. This slide details the various technical communities and the membership communities. With more than 200 active committees, you're sure to find something that fits your areas of interest. And as a member-led society, if there is a topic or a community of interest to you that you'd like to start, we're happy to help you do that. So you actually have the control. It's not the staff that's controlling this. We're here to support you in your thoughts and ideas. Within each of the technical communities, we drill down through their structural organization. So we have O1, which is the Executive and Steering Committee. It's made up of the elected officers that we named, who are the executives. And in this case, also the chairs and vice chairs of the communities or the community committees. The nominating committee is made up of past chairs, and they're responsible for selecting the nominees for future executive positions from the membership that are sitting on the O1 committee. Other standing committees are the Standards Oversight for all of the standards development under the Standards and Technical Council, and the Publications and Program Committees working under the Publication and Meetings Councils, respectively. As we move through the society or the hierarchy of communities, They break down into their individual committees or groups based on focus and interest, and further break down into specialty areas for technical expertise. Lower tier committees report to the next committee up, sometimes referred to as a parent committee. In PRS, we really don't have subcommittees, so basically you're in your committee group. But if you are active in any of the other technical communities, you'll probably notice that there are subcommittees which report to their parent committee. One thing I do want to point out, though, that in your committee group for 701, 702, 703, 707, or 280, you need to report up to your steering committee. So if, as an officer, you need to make sure that you include those meetings, the extra meeting, on your schedule when you go to the annual international meeting. Sometimes people don't realize that when they're in an officer position, it's not just the one meeting that you should be going to. There's usually a meeting above you that you should be participating in as well. It's also good to prepare a report in advance. Sit down and just think about this, so that when it comes your time to make a report on your committee, that you're well prepared and you have maybe bullet points of projects or activities that you've been discussing in your committee. Any questions so far? Okay. I'm going to go over some website resources, and these are available to everyone. So it's not just if you are an officer in any committee. These are available pretty much 24/7, or if you're an ASabe member, which I believe most people in PRS are, you just need to log in to access some of these. So the first thing we're going to look at, other than your bylaws, is your committee roster. Again, I said this is available to any ASabe member. What you need to do is to log in first to the ASabe website. When you bring down the menu under committees, you see where it says committee rosters right here. You just click on that, and this is what will open up. You have a list of all of the committees that are present in ASabe, and there are quite a few. So if you see here, it says 247. Generally, what I like to do is to click on this show all 247, because I don't know where some of my committees may be housed. And that way, once I do that, it opens up the full list and I can scroll all the way down to what I want. Otherwise, you are clicking each page and searching each page. So this is really the easiest way. Once you find your committee and you click on it, it opens up a full list of everyone on the roster. It shows who your officers are, and it also has an email that if you wanted to email that person, you just need to click that and it would open up your email to them. In order to download that roster, you would go to export and click on that. It brings up a list of programs that you can download as, and I download usually in Excel. It'll open up in my tray, and I can open it and then manipulate it and save it to my computer. I've had some people who have contacted me and asked, you know, how do I find out who is the chair of these various committees that I want to contact? Well, this is the easiest way. Just go up, select committees, show all 247, slide down here and click on this. If you right click and open in a new tab, you can go back to this page and open successive committees. And then you have all that information right at your fingertips. So here, again, select the committee rosters from the committee menu right here. Scroll to your committee, select the link, export it, choose the format you want, and save it to your computer. So very simple. So the publications department, they've done a great job providing as much information and direction as possible for contributors. There are a huge list of possible options you can select from, and that drills down to greater information. And access to the technical library is available from the top of all of the major pages right here, technical library, because that's an outside resource, basically is linked to our website, but it is an outside resource. If you don't find what you need for your involvement in publications, which I know a lot of you are involved in that, you're welcome to contact one of the staff members for assistance. You'll also notice if you were to pull down the publications menu that standards development is located under the publications and standards. So if you wanted to go into standards development, you would go right directly here. The Standards Department also has a lot of relevant information on both national and international standards. So if you don't know what a standard is or how it's developed, feel free to look around, because you can go to just general standards, you can go to national standards, you can go to international standards, and there are just a ton of links for pretty much anything you wanted to know, as well as some frequently asked questions. And again, any questions, the Standards Department staff is open and willing to help. And since many committees do work on standards development, information to support those committees officers can be found with the standards information under development committees. So when you pull down the menu, you go to development committees, and we have like an introduction to engage, we have general responsibilities, directions on how to update your committee roster, which we need you to send in to us annually, how to access your committee rosters, just those directions that we went through, all of the ASabe committees. We have agenda templates, we have a new consent agenda template, we have sign-in sheets, all sorts of things for you to download. Also some information on how you could handle a virtual meeting. And because there are a lot of committees that don't deal with standards, they wouldn't think to look under standards for a lot of this information. So if you looked under just general committees, we have a committee management section here where we have a lot of the same key information, such as the responsibilities, how to update your roster, and the templates, the sign-in, etc. And on that committee page is also another link to those committee rosters. So on the website page, as I just mentioned, the development committees under the standards and committee management, and under committees, you'll find a number of resources, as I said, to make your leadership job a bit easier. And one of the most important resources, aside from directions on how to access and download your roster, is the agenda template and the consent agenda template. The consent agenda, which we've just started using this year, allows you to group some of your general information and your general housekeeping work together. For example, some of the items that are usually in consent agenda are going to be the minutes from your last meeting. Those should have been sent out previously. Everyone's had a chance to read through them. So generally, you're going to say that, and maybe approving anyone who is renewing on the roster. We're going to just make a motion, and we're going to accept those as a group together. So there's one motion, one vote, everything's agreed to, and you move on. And then you can actually be talking about some of those important topics that you really want to focus on in your meeting. And there are so many details to cover in a meeting, whether it's going to be your housekeeping meeting, which we're trying to encourage you hold virtually, or your annual meeting, that we've tried to put a lot of information on these templates. If you notice, everything in red here should be deleted. Those are directions to you, the person who is setting up this agenda. We've put a lot of things on the agenda, and not everything is going to be part of what you need to talk about. So if, for example, we have listed here, I'm thinking STC 01, which is the Policy and Procedures Committee, or STCO2, which happens to deal with international standards, and you don't have anyone involved in those, go ahead and delete those from your agenda. You don't have to be putting things in there that don't have any relevance to you. Being that this is a template, we wanted it to be as inclusive as possible so people can go and pick and choose, decide what to delete and what to keep. And another thing that we did was try to set it up so that you have your agenda items on one side, and then the other side is open so that you can have whoever's taking your notes set up your minutes so that you have the agenda and minutes all together when you send those out to your committee. I know for me, one of the most frustrating things for me, when I get a set of minutes that have no relevance to an agenda, they don't talk about what the agenda was. I have no idea what they planned on talking about in that meeting and what they actually got to. So when you use something that is split like this, we see the agenda that was set up, and then we see the notes that were taken in reference to what was talked about. So again, this is available on the website pages for anyone to download. And then as leaders in ASabe and just general members, you have the unique opportunity to know what's happening in your field and with your colleagues. And as I noted in the previous slide, we provided a template for setting up your meeting agendas to help you take care of housekeeping measures for your committee. But one of the newer additions that we did put on the agendas is a request for member and society related information that can be used in various media formats to promote our members, such as on our Facebook page or Twitter, called X now, I believe, and any other media. We have the monthly meeting that, not meeting, but newsletter, the Inside, that comes out every month. So our publications or public affairs department really wants to hear from members, because we don't know everything that's going on, but you do, because you're close to the source. So if there's anything that you feel is newsworthy or should be promoted, Dolores Landeck at asabe.org is our public affairs director, and she is happy to take in all your information, and she funnels it to the various social media or news releases that she deals with every month. So please do send those in. Someone gets an award at your university, you get a promotion, tenure, whatever. We want to hear all about that so we can promote you, our members. So just about every ASabe committee has a communication site set up for it on the new Engage platform. It's an efficient way to send messages to your community. So after logging into the website, Engage can be accessed from the quick links at the top of the main ASabe page, where forums used to be. Now we just have Engage, and that opens up your Engage page. So it will come to the home. This is your home page here, what you see. And on the home page, if you have not gone to Engage yet, there will be a I guess a security cover page that comes up first for the platform that we use. They have their own security asking you to accept their parameters for appropriate use. All you have to do is scroll down to the bottom and accept that, and then it will come to your home page. If this is your first time in, and for future, when you have problems or questions, I want you to come to your homepage and go to the video tutorials. There is a list of, I think, about 6 videos right now, and they're fairly short. Some of them are just a few minutes, some of them are a little bit longer, and then at the end, we just added one that's about a 10-minute quick overview. And these will talk about how to do certain things, whether it is just getting your profile set up, or it's how to send an email, how to put something in the library on your committee, how to respond to an email. All of that is going to be in the video tutorials, and you can watch them one at a time and just kind of bookmark that, or come back to this page, which is what I do a lot of times. Even now, come to my home page, I'll jump onto the video tutorials because someone will have asked me, how do I do something? One question I just got the other day was, I started a draft email and I hit save and it disappeared from my screen and I didn't know where it went. Well, in the video tutorials, there is a video on communications, and starting at minute 3.06, it will talk about when you set up a draft or a scheduled email and then you hit save, where does it go and how do you find it? So again, I've tried to touch on a lot of the problems that you run across, because we've all run across them as staff. So if you're on a mobile device, I just want to let you know, and you log into ASABE and you want to get to Engage, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see the quick links for Engage. That's just a little tip I'm giving out there too. So each community page contains an archive of the emails that are sent to your committee, including any attachments for easy access. And all the attachments, if you send an email with an attachment, it automatically goes into your library, into a main folder. You can always go in and redirect it to any of the folders that we have set up. You can also ask staff to set up additional folders in your library. Unfortunately, members can't do that. Staff has to do it, but it's easy. If you have a vision of how you would like folders set up, send an email with your list of the folders that you want, in what order you want them, what you want them named, and we're happy to go in and just set those up for you. I've done it several times for committee officers. So a quick way to find any emails is to go to Threads, and there will be a full list of the emails that have been sent. And again, this is only since we've gone to this Engage platform. Nothing before that is available any longer. So regarding sending emails through Engage, while there is a form in the threads that you can fill out to send an email via this website, you can also send an email to the unique email for each committee. And this is very similar to what we had for the forums. It used to be ASABE- in this case, NRES 07-07 at ASABE or forums.asabe.org. So we've just changed this endpoint. But you can go in here, you can copy this, highlight it and copy it, slap it into your Outlook or your Gmail, and then you'll be sending an email to the entire committee. And if you have an attachment on there, again, it goes to the entire committee, and that attachment would be uploaded automatically to the library. So it's really easy to use. One of the features that we found is not available, when you go into the members tab, it shows all the members on the committee. It does not highlight who the officers are. So what we have done is manually gone in and pulled out the names of the officers and their terms. So if you go up here, you can find that information quickly. So if you wanted to email, for example, the chair, you go into members, find that person, select their name underneath their picture, and it would allow you to email them. Any questions so far? I haven't heard anything, so I'm just hoping that I'm not just steamrolling over you here.
No, it's going good. Jill,
yes.
Yeah, it's nice.
Good, good. And again, I just really want to push these video tutorials. Like I told you, I go there all the time myself so that I can send someone the link to a specific video that I think they need to answer their questions. It's so much easier than me trying to type it out and explain it. In here, as I noted, that only the staff can create the folders, and they are automatically going into the library. You can move the documents into different folders by going in and editing them. You can also go in and download anything that is in the folders. Another thing that I find annoying, and I'm sure you probably do too, but we don't have any other way around it, is if you get an email through Engage and there is an attachment, you must be logged into Engage in order to download that attachment. So what I would highly suggest is that when you see emails come through and you see they have attachments, jump over to asabe.org. Hopefully you've got that bookmarked. You can jump in, you can hopefully save your login information, log in quickly, hit Engage, and while that's opening, go back to your email and open it up. What I do every day is that's the first thing I log into ASABE, and then I go over and log into my Engage platform because I know I'm going to be sending and receiving emails through there. So if this is something that you feel you might need in a day or a week as you're preparing for meetings, just open it up and let it sit there for the day in the background. That way, if an email comes in, you can just go ahead and open it up and download what you need. So that's my easy little trick. So next, let's talk about the annual meeting information. This is, I know, a big topic for especially PRS committees, and actually a lot of the other committees as well, because this is the time when you come together annually to not only see each other, but you have your technical presentations. So annual meeting planning begins almost immediately following the summer meeting. Basically, Jessica takes a 2-week vacation, and when she gets back, she gets right back into it. So feedback is always helpful for the staff. And I've listed a few items that you might want to communicate following your meeting while thoughts are still fresh. And we're still pretty close to the meeting, so you may still have some feedback. Contacting Jessica directly through the email, and I put her email here, and copying your assigned staff person, in this case me, is generally the best way to have your comments noted. If I know you've sent Jessica some concerns or suggestions, I can always follow up with her. And if she doesn't have time to respond to you, I might be able to do that as well. So these are some frequently asked questions that we receive regarding sessions and guest speakers. So I wanted to put these in here. Who makes the decisions for the technical session? So the chair of the Community Program Committee and the Society Program Chair coordinate the community program chairs. So all of the different committees for PRS are to be sending in their session titles so that the community program chair, who I believe is that John this year? Is that you, John?
It is, yes, I am.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, go back. So John is going to make sure that you get those in so he can make sure those are submitted. And Jessica sends out a link to the community program chairs to have them put the topics in. And she usually likes to have those by the end of August. Another question is, when do you have to identify your session moderators? So when you are actually submitting your sessions, it's you're supposed to have your moderators identified. And a lot of times, I think that's one of the questions that are asked when you are coming up with your topics, as well as, you know, do I have some volunteers to help moderate? And I know that our members are always very, very good about volunteering in that aspect. So then how do you get registration waivers for your guest speakers? So this takes place closer to AIM, I would say in the springtime, because there are some deadlines for making sure that all of your presenters have registered for AIM in order to keep their presentations active. If they don't register by a certain date, Jessica will pull their presentations from the list. So there is an opportunity to request a 1-day attendance pass for the meetings from the meetings lead, Jessica, for a guest speaker that you're bringing in. So that means that they will have a pass for just one day of the entire AIM when they're coming in. If they'd like to stay for the entire 3 days, including luncheons and awards and all that, they'll have to pay themselves. And this is reserved for non-ASABE members only. So just some target dates again, 31st for your technical session list. Mid-January is when any continuing education offerings need to be listed or sent into Jessica, as well as any special events you might want to have. That might include like a joint PRS session that you want to have the whole gathering of the community together. I know some communities have requested time for just a social event for their community members. So something like that would need to be in by mid-January, as well as any special tours. If we're coming to your part of the country and you'd like to highlight something going on at your university or your company and provide tours to members who might be interested, then all of that information needs to be in by mid-January. Then as you see here, the participation of invited speakers needs to be confirmed, and then the registration deadline for technical session presenters. And if they don't meet the deadline, Jessica is firm, she will pull those from the listing. Now I want to just move on to facilitating the committee meetings. I think we've had a lot of questions about that over the past year or so. And so again, if you have anything that I'm not touching on, do jump in there, because it's really important that each of the sets of officers understand how to best conduct their meeting. And if you are considering being an officer, this is more or less what you need to do. So first thing, there is the meeting preparation. So you need to have an agenda. What are you going to be talking about? We talked about those agenda templates, which give you a guideline to get started with. And you need to communicate your agenda to your members at least 2 weeks in advance. It's always very frustrating when a week before or 2 days before or the evening before your meeting, the agenda finally comes out. Update any expiring membership terms in your committee. I try to communicate with officers in the springtime with some directions on how to start going out to all of those members who are scheduled to expire at the end of the annual meeting, to ask them if they'd like to renew in advance, and let me know who they are in advance. I have to import all of those updates by hand individually. And it takes a long time. It takes me about an hour to update one committee, and I have 74 committees that I have to keep track of. So it just takes a lot of time. So if you can do that in advance, I would certainly appreciate that. I think this year I had 1 or 2 chairs who actually were able to provide me with their renewing members a month or so in advance. And it's just so helpful, because you're still going to have your new people that have come into your meeting and would like to join. You have new officers. You may decide on new representatives or liaisons. And I need all of that information after your meeting. I want you to be familiar with any virtual platform that's being used. If you are holding some sort of a hybrid meeting, or if you happen to hold a housekeeping meeting virtually in advance, make sure you know how to use that platform that you're going to be on so that you're not fumbling around. You should also familiarize yourself with any open projects that your committee has. And I'm not talking about just standards projects. Standards projects for me, obviously, are key. You should know what projects are in the process, where they are in the process, if the person who is in charge of it needs any help or would like to make some sort of a presentation at your meeting. And you should also request maybe a written report about projects. But again, here's an idea. If as officers, you decide to have a virtual meeting prior to AIM, where you can take care of electing new officers and approving that past minutes and all that sort of thing, renewing people or whatever, get all of that out of the way. And then maybe you can have, during your actual meeting at AIM, you can have those people who are working on projects, whether it's standards projects or other projects for their own organization, make presentations. The reason you're there is to build your own professional expertise. It's for your professional development. It's for you to connect with your peers. So I want you to kind of think outside the box. I want you to make these meetings interesting. I want them to be on topics that are relevant to those of you in the committee, because that's what's going to attract new people. I know there's been a lot of talk about attrition in some of the PRS committees, and that they don't seem to be very interesting or welcoming. And so how do we do that? How do we change that? Let's get the boring stuff out of the way. Let's do that in a virtual meeting and then come into our actual physical face-to-face meeting with some concrete plans to share our passion with each other. So I really want to challenge all of you to do that. So, and this is for people who are not necessarily officers, but people who are working on projects. Contact your officer and say, hey, I've got this really interesting project I'm working on, and I'd like to talk about it at the next meeting we have, so that maybe some other experts can give me some feedback or point me in a new direction or provide some information that will fill the holes I'm facing. So that's my little soapbox. I've been speaking about that to just about every one of my committees. So I really encourage you, as I said before, this is your society, your committees, your meetings. It's not up to staff to decide what you do. It's up to you to decide what you do. Staff needs a few certain things done, yes, but don't get hung up on, how many people are there? Do we have a quorum? Can we be in a meeting? Take the notes and just keep moving on, because that's what's important, is your development, your interest, your passions. So let's go over some of the basics. And again, I don't want you getting hung up on these things. If you don't know what process or procedure to follow, just go ahead and wing it. We don't have like meeting police. So I want you to have a productive meeting. That's what's most important, a good and productive and positive meeting. If you do worry about the rules of order, which there should be some order, I absolutely feel that. We use Robert's Rules of Order as the basis for our procedures. But like I say, don't get hung up on that. Your committee bylaws, which are found on every single one of the Engage committee libraries. So you just need to go to your library and there's a folder that says bylaws, and your bylaws are right in there. It tells you what all the leadership positions are. It tells you about membership and observer status. So members, when it says member, you're voting. If it's observer, you have access to everything, but you just are not allowed to vote. So you need to know what status you are. A quorum is 51% of the voting members. So you have voting requirements. Use your roster to identify the current voting members. So any officer going in to lead a meeting should have a paper copy of the roster, so you know who is present. There was one committee recently that met, and I looked at the short list of people who were able to attend, and I think there were only 3 actual committee members. Everyone else was new. So again, don't get hung up. If that's what your meeting is, that's what your meeting is. The chair facilitates the meeting, and if the chair isn't present, then the vice chair hopefully would step in. So the first thing you need to do before you get started is verify that someone is there to take your minutes or to document the actions of the committee. If you have a secretary who's not there, or you don't have a secretary, just ask someone just to please take notes. Because if you're leading a meeting, it's awfully hard to take notes at the same time. So you call your meeting to order and introduce everyone who's present. There should be a sign-in sheet, because you may have people who slip in while you're working through your meeting process. And for virtual meetings, just as we did here, and if you haven't done it already, please do sign into the chat feature. That way we know that you were here. Review and accept your past meeting minutes. And I've had a lot of people say, well, what if I didn't have I keep clicking here, sorry. What if I didn't have a quorum at my meeting? What do? I can't approve the minutes. Don't worry about it. They're just notes. You know, the actions were taken, they're just notes. Just put down that everyone present acknowledged that they were presented, and move on. Review the proposed agenda and amend it if needed, so that if someone needs to add something, and be mindful of the time allotted for the meeting discussion. Keep the discussion aligned with the approved agenda. That's your job as a person facilitating the meeting. So it's awfully easy when you're standing up there and you're not sure of yourself, when you have a very vocal member in your audience, shall we say, in your committee, who decides that they're going to talk about something that is not on your agenda, but it's very important to them to start talking about it. You need to be the bad guy in this case. You need to say, excuse me, I understand you have something important to say. If we have time at the end, we will address it, but it's not on our agenda. You had the opportunity to add it to our agenda, but you didn't. So if we have time, we will address it then. Thank you so much. And you just have to be the person in charge. That is really important. Another thing that I want to really underline is that we have to be respectful of each other. We can't talk over each other, repeating ourselves over and over again. People heard you the first time. You don't need to keep repeating yourself just because you felt you weren't heard. The chair can validate, yes, we understand you are saying this. Thank you very much. Now let's move on. The chair or person facilitating the meeting really needs to be in charge. That's the only way you're going to get through some of your meetings. So again, let's get back to the documenting the meetings, because there have been times when some people over document and write down everything that was said. And then there are other times when people under document and don't write down much of anything. So some key points for meeting minutes. You want to make sure you note the place, the time, the date, and the name of the committee. Document in writing all motions. If someone moves to approve the agenda, write that down. And who provides the support? Write that down. If there is an action that the committee wants to take, for example, starting a new project, write down what they have agreed on before the vote is taken. Repeat it back to everyone and say, my understanding is that this committee has decided that they're going to start the project on an XYZ, and they will have a report to present in 6 months virtually at a meeting that we will hold. Is this what everyone wants? Everyone agrees. Yes, this is what we were talking about. Okay, now you can take your vote. And an important thing, and I've noticed this in many, many committee meetings, I sit in so many of them, someone will make a motion and someone will provide support and second the motion. And then the person facilitating is so flustered that they just move on, assuming that has now been approved. Well, it hasn't been approved. It's just you've approved the motion. So make sure you do take the vote. This is very important. And the person taking the minutes needs to record the vote. The motion was passed or the motion failed. Votes to approve new voting members, should include the names of those people you're approving. Votes to elect your officers are all required, and they should include the names and the office. and then write down a summary of the discussion. You don't have to write down everything, just listen and capsulize it. Write down a summary of what was discussed. When you do this, send the draft minutes to the members and the ASabe staff within 30 days. And why I say 30 days, this is really important because you've included new members on your list, but I don't know who they are until I receive those minutes, and then I can add them to your committee roster so that when you send out something else to your committee, they actually get it. Now, here we are with conducting the vote. Again, identify your voting members before the discussion. So you don't have people who just walked in voting on who your officers are if they're not members yet. Or if you have more observers or guests, some of them feel that they can vote when actually they're not even on the committee. So you need to know who's voting, and you might want to even make a list and say the names. Okay, these people that I'm going to list off are voting members. You are the ones who may vote on the new officer. Don't be afraid to do that. A motion, again, needs to be made. You need to have a second to the motion. Discussion then takes place. If there's no support or second, then the motion is not considered. If there is, following the discussion, the vote is taken. And again, make sure you actually take that vote. Then the chair states the outcome of the vote, all being recorded in your minutes. Questions so far? Okay. Moving on. I talk about rosters a lot, and I want to explain to you how to go about updating rosters and why rosters are so important to us. First, everyone on an ASabe committee has a specific term of membership. Most of the people on a committee are ASabe members, so your annual membership to ASabe is different from your committee membership. Your committee membership is 3 years, which is stated by the society bylaws. So you do not renew a member unless the person has actually verified to you that they wish to continue. And I say this because some members may wish not to continue and don't want to receive the information. Some members may be older and have passed away or have retired and decide they don't want to participate any longer. So it's always good to make sure you actually have a response from that person one way or the other. You want to look at all of the positions. If there is an open representative position or a liaison position, it's either going to be expiring in that current year, or it will say to be decided or appointed. Be sure the person who is chosen for those positions understands that they are to attend additional meetings and provide reports. We have so many representatives on other committees and liaisons to other committees who don't even know that they are in that position, and so no report ever gets made, and they don't attend any of these meetings. So it's rather pointless to have those positions in the first place. And the ASabe staff has a hard deadline for having the roster updates completed to prepare the printing of a roster book, which is September 15th, which is why if you were to look at the rosters online, the end date is always going to be September 15th. So if we have not been able to update you on any of your committees by that date or anyone else, they automatically drop off. That means you're gone. You don't get a say in it. If you haven't responded to us by September 15th and been entered in, as I said, we have to enter everything manually, which takes a lot of time, then you automatically drop off because this roster book has to go to the printer. So this is where staff has to really push to get rosters done in advance. So why are these rosters so important? So ASabe has a central database, and that connects all of the member information, the historical information, such as all of the committee positions that you've held over the years. It's linked to the website, and the technical committee access, which means it's also linked to the ASABE Engage. If the roster information is not correct, you won't receive your emails. If the roster information is not correct, we're not going to be able to reach you. So for roster updates, the staff needs the following information. We don't need your entire roster. I have some committees that are well over 100 people, and I will get the entire roster sent to me, and the chair will have marked the expiration date for everyone as 1 year from now, which is incorrect because everyone has a 3-year renewal, and every committee should have approximately 1/3 of the committee renewing every 3 years. So all I want are your new committee members with their email address, because sometimes I get a name that is not the name they've registered with, so I use their email address to find them. I want to know all of your officers and their expiration of terms, their expiration date. Is it 2 years? Is it 1 year? Is it 6 years? Let me know every year. I want to know all of your new reps to other committees and the expiration of their terms. I want to know all of your committee members who are renewing, me and my clicker, renewing or expiring. If they are not renewing this year and they are not expiring this year, I don't need to see their name because they're not doing anything. If you have existing members with no action, I don't need to see that. So you can just send me your renewing and expiring members. Send me your new members. Send me your officers and new reps or liaisons. That's what I need. And then it helps me to update your roster much more efficiently. So here's a leadership checklist I have. Just some basic things that you need to make sure that you are attending to during the year. Do you have the minutes from the last meeting? Because you need to present those when you're doing your housekeeping at your next meeting. Make sure you set up an agenda so you know what you're talking about. Communicate to your committee members where, when, and how you're going to meet. Is this virtual or is this in person? For your roster update, who is expiring this year? Ask them in advance, do you want to continue? And again, this year, everyone's being renewed now for 3 years. So if they're expiring in 2023, I will renew them until 2026. For the bylaws, check your bylaws. If they were revised after the 2014 reorganization, then you don't have to do anything. Just make sure that they're in your library. If they weren't revised after the 2014 reorganization, then contact staff because you do need to update those. It's not that painful. We have a template. We have a template for everything, I think. So we're happy to help you get those updated. But it's important to identify who your officers are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and what committees they need to sit on. And then finally, I just want to note that the staff is always available to help. I don't know if many of you know, but we have a new staff person in standards, Sadie Stell. This is her email, stell@asabe.org. Carla Companion, who is Carla Van Gilder previously. Carla is starting to move toward retirement. So she is helping to train Sadie, and Sadie will be taking over many of her duties. But we all support each other. So if I'm not available, I will refer you to Walter or Sadie or Carla for assistance. And we're all happy to help any of our members. So I just want to reiterate that. And that is the end of my presentation, but I am happy to go on video and we can have further conversation.